Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. The United Arab Emirates announced over the weekend it's resuming participation in the U.S.-led airstrikes against ISIS. Well, this comes after Jordan stepped up its strikes against the terror group in recent days. Will this escalation unite or divide the regional powers in the Middle East? Joining us with reaction is Washington Institute's David Schenker. David, let me ask you first. We've now seen everybody seems to be increasing their efforts in the airstrikes, but the video that we had last week of the Jordanian pilot being killed, being burned to death, has this served to unite everybody or scare some away?
Well, a little bit of both. I think what we saw was the United Arab Emirates draw back a bit because they realized that their pilots, and particularly their women pilots, they did not want to make them susceptible to this. In Jordan, where the population by and large was totally opposed to involvement in the anti-ISIS coalition, it shifted the public opinion 100%, or let's say 180 degrees, to the point that now everybody in Jordan supports going after ISIS. You still have the problem of search and rescue, etc., but people seem, at least temporarily, to be willing to put more on the line to go after ISIS. They're starting to understand that this is, in fact, their war.
When you say they're starting to understand, they're putting more in, we've just seen airstrikes. We've not seen boots on the ground, except maybe for the Kurds in the north. Is there a ground component to this fight that we've yet to see?
Yeah, ISIS is not going to be dislodged by an air campaign. We've seen both in the United States-led coalition operations in Iraq and Syria that over the last 6 months, in fact, ISIS has expanded its territory. It's remarkable to think that we're got a campaign to roll back ISIS, and they're still growing. Ultimately, what's going to be needed is boots on the ground. We're training up Iraqi troops to go back and launch an offensive to liberate Mosul. We are training slowly but surely, let's say very slowly, the Syrian opposition. These are going to be the boots on the ground ultimately, according to the Obama administration. But I think there has to be more. You might get at least for a short period of time, some Jordanian special operations in Syria, targeting high-value ISIS targets, perhaps. But I don't think that's going to be sustained either. We've got a real problem here because ultimately there's going to have to be people on the ground that dislodge ISIS. You can't just do it with smart bombs.
You know, David, what seems to be happening is it's coalescing around the idea that they'll have an air campaign, they'll potentially have a ground campaign against ISIS in Iraq. But then what about ISIS in Syria? The Iranians are joining the anti-ISIS fight in Iraq, but yet the President Assad of Syria is their guy. Are they going to somehow let the coalition really take after the Syrians?
No. This administration has been totally focused on Iraq. All the air operations, maybe 80% of the air operations in Syria, were focused on Kobani, and sure enough, it ultimately succeeded in driving ISIS out of Kobani, but they have retrenched elsewhere and continue to gain territory. The administration is going to have to broaden its campaign in Syria. Right now, it is either working with Iran or, at a minimum, deconflicting with Iran on the campaign to dislodge ISIS from Iraq. In Syria, we have no such partner, nor should we. And in fact, by only targeting ISIS and basically leaving the Assad regime alone, we are confirming to most Sunni Muslims that we are siding with Iran and the Assad regime. And this, of course, has a potential to drive even more Sunnis into the arms of ISIS. We have to remember the Assad regime has killed nearly 200,000 mostly Sunni Muslims to date.
You know, I've got a final quick question, David. You mentioned at the very beginning, for now. Where are we 6 months, a year from now? Everyone seems to think this is a long fight against ISIS. And yet, will the United States, will the Sunni Arabs, will the coalition hold together and fight the long fight?
This administration has pledged to roll back, ultimately defeat ISIS. We have had an air campaign that has not really demonstrated that type of commitment to date. But countries in the region, particularly Jordan, United Arab Emirates, understand that ISIS is not only a military threat, but an ideological threat that has to be countered. Not all the Arab states, the Sunni Arab states, are on board with this. And I think what it's going to take is a lot of U.S. leadership and a greater sense of urgency on the ground, as well as in the air. Until we demonstrate that, it's going to be hard to keep this coalition together. But it's going to be, I think, a project that's going to take years, if not decades, to totally stomp out. This is not just a military campaign. It's a military campaign combined with other types of economic and diplomatic initiatives, and it's going to have to be followed through. And I don't think the Obama administration is going to be in a position to really oversee that. I think they're going to hold this as a placeholder to try and contain ISIS for the next administration.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The Washington Institute's David Schenker. For the latest on the fight against ISIS, stick with FoxNews.com. I'm KT McFarland. Thanks for watching.